Under normal circumstances, when I talk about diseases to people, I'm not talking about problems that I actually have myself, and in a way I feel that that's a little bit disingenuous, not disingenuous exactly, but a bit sort of incompetent of me, because I don't actually know what it's like to have these conditions. But one condition I do have is irritable bowel, or rather I did used to have it. Now, irritable bowel syndrome is a functional disorder and it varies between different people as well. So when I say it's a functional disorder, it means that nothing abnormal can be detected on scans and the like on the whole, although you can actually detect the cramping situation. So here is a model of my bowel, which is probably not very much to scale. Now, I should talk about my history with this condition. Up until I was about 18 and a half, I used to go to the toilet about once every 5 days, and I've always had a big flatulence problem. And by the way, if you happen to know about the other channel, it's not connected to that. I've gone through long periods of time when I haven't done what I do on the other channel, and it just carries on as normal. It's not connected, although I think it is connected psychologically, but that's another story, an interesting story though. So I then left home, and I found that my frequency of bowel movements crept up, and it ended up about 20 times a day on average. And this was quite difficult because it meant that I had to be near the toilet a lot of the time, which is fairly strongly influential on the quality of your life and restricts what you can do. So that was not fun, and also the flatulence problem tended to put people off being anywhere near me as well. Now, that's the kind of irritable bowel problem that I have. I also got the bloating, I got the pain. In particular, you get the pains up in these flexures here, that one there and that one there, because what happens is gas gets trapped up there, and then that gets painful, and it gets trapped up there and it gets painful. The other thing is this bit, the sigmoid. This is an S, called sigmoid because it's S-shaped, and what happens is it feels like it's in a different place for me, and it also sort of feels like it's got sharp curves. And I think there is a problem with people with IBS where they tend to perceive, firstly, they're more sensitive to the stretching of their colons, and secondly, they tend to localize the pain less well, although referred pain in the colon is in the digestive system is usually up and down a midline. So this here feels like it's over here to me, and maybe it is, I don't know. So I had all of that. Now, what can you do about it? Well, I've got it sorted now, and the way I got it sorted was, among other things, with this, which is agrimony. Agrimony is an astringent plant in the rose family. A lot of the rose family are astringent because they're high in tannins. They also tend to be high in vitamin C, but that's not relevant to this. And as you can see, it's reddish, which shows that it's high in tannins. And that tends to help. Another thing that tends to help some people is to use the traditional herbs that you put in food, such as nutmeg, ginger and so forth. And also there's other things like avoiding onions and that. Another thing is you should chew your food about 50 times. Now, and also drink plenty of water, because you're actually swallowing too hard and you're actually sort of bloating yourself up with that as well, which is not very helpful. Now, there are a couple of other things. I think that what tends to happen is instead of feeling things emotionally and expressing them through things like tears and laughter and so forth, I will tend to express them through my bowels, and it's like it's another part of my facial expression that I will tend to express things down here. And I also think that there's a sort of spatial symbolic relationship where you push things down and repress them and they end up in your bowels. I've been in situations where I thought, well, I ought to feel stressed, but I'm not. And when that happens, I find that the bowel movements and all that sort of problem tends to be a lot worse. So that's quite interesting. Another thing is I think it challenges the idea that you are your brain, because as far as the mind-body problem is concerned, that's often crystallized down, and I will do a video about this in future, to you being your brain. But in fact, there are something like 100 million neurons in here. And I actually think that it's not just your brain that's the seat of consciousness, this is equally the seat of consciousness. It's actually literally true, I think, that your consciousness is partly set in your bowels, and I think that there's more to it than that. And I'm going to go into that again in future. So, Yeah, chew your food thoroughly, drink a lot of water, use agrimony, use the kind of herbs that are used in culinary cooking, whatever that is. And, you know, here you are with your fluorescent bowel. Can't really talk. It does become a structural disorder after some time if it's untreated, or it can become, where you get diverticular, because as you can see there's a tape down there which is quite firm, and you can get pockets sticking out, and then the diverticulosis can become infected diverticulitis later on. So yeah, I realise I've got a lot of material here and I haven't really got the time to do it justice, but that's all I've got to say about it for the time being, and tomorrow I'll probably be talking about the Chinese New Year.